What's your single biggest priority if elected to Austin?
Is there a single? I don't know if there's a single, but I will tell you this. Education is top of mind for me. Right now, fighting for our public schools is in the forefront of everything I'm doing. We have a governor that is holding our funds hostage. We have a current elected official and our state rep that has just basically given up and trying to tell people how to negotiate, well, how to just deal with the voucher situation as if it's already a done deal, and it's not. I'm going to fight for our people and I'm going to fight for our children. So that's what's most important to me when I get to Austin, is to let them know that we voted for our school board. You need to trust us to do what we're supposed to do with our money, keep our schools open, fund our schools with our property tax that we are paying in.
School vouchers are a big topic here in Texas.
Yes, they are.
And you sort of just mentioned it. You're not for them.
I am not for them. I am not for them because school choice is just that. It's the school's choice on whether they want to take your child based on whatever stipulations they put across. I believe in the Texas Constitution, and it says that every child should be educated equally and the same, and that is what I believe we should follow. We all believe in the Constitution. We are all governed by that Constitution, and we should not be doing anything to go against it. So for me, in the rural areas, seeing schools like New Diana have to go to 4 days, or us in Longview ISD having to pass large bond referendums, or schools like Jefferson not being able to get the support that they need and hire the staffing they need, that's a problem for me. And that all comes down to our governor not wanting to release funds because of this voucher program. It does not support the rural areas. It will not have any good standing in the rural areas. If you think about our district, how many private schools do we actually have? 2, right? If you think about it, 2, maybe 3. And when it comes down to that, that's not enough to take care of the over 60,000 children that are in our district that need to be educated.
Governor Abbott feels he has the votes to pass school choice. Of course, he campaigned for a lot of people on the school choice issue. If it passes, which it very well could in the upcoming legislative session, what would be next in your opinion? What's the next step?
Our next step would be to figure out how to repeal that. Our goal is to immediately. Our goal is to take care of our rural education. It is their right to be educated equally, and I would do whatever I could to take care of that. Now, I will say that it looks like it could, but I don't believe it will, because we've got 12 good flippable seats in the state of Texas that Democrats are running after, and we're going hard for, and we're going to make that happen, and we're going to take care of that. And what it's going to take is that people to get out and vote and realize you send your children to public school, you want to protect that public school. It's better for our communities, for all of us, to be able to have a school system that we all support and we can all go to and we can all enjoy. Who wouldn't want Friday night lights, right? We're in Texas. And if we start taking away from the school system, that's exactly what we're doing. We're stripping Friday night lights away from our people. We don't want to do that. But I will say this, that's probably because my opponent is from Louisiana and he doesn't understand Texas football. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
What would you say is your biggest motivation for entering this race?
My biggest motivation, I definitely say is my parents. I talk a lot about my family, but the life of my parents, the life that they've led, it moves me. They have been community activists, and they have been people who, really pillars of the community. And I model myself after that, and that's what I wanted to do. I went off to Houston. I worked and did very well in my career, and I was able to come back home, which was always a part of my plan. And now that I'm at home, what I want more than anything else is for us to have the same freedoms and liberties that everybody else does in this great state. I don't think there should be a difference between the urban areas and the rural areas when it comes to resources.
You mentioned that you left home to be able to come back home.
Yes.
And of course, the reality is economically this area is struggling a little
right.
bit. People are struggling with high prices.
Right.
Just the economy in general. What specific initiatives would you like to see passed if elected to the Texas House to improve the economy, to make it so people may not have to leave East Texas?
Well, it's all about education, training, and resources. And that is my thing. I think that we need to be pulling resources, of course, from the federal government and passing legislation that is going to allow more training opportunities for us to have a better workforce, for us to bring in more economic opportunities. I have a master's degree in economic development, and I can tell you right now, we have not taken advantage of every resource that we have here to be able to create jobs and bring in new jobs. We live in a wonderful district. Construction, for one, there could be more opportunities for training in construction and construction management and just construction trades in general. We've seen an uptick in general trade jobs and careers over the last 3 years, especially since the pandemic. If you think about the power outages with Centerpoint that we've struggled through over the last, few months, you can tell electricians are doing very, very well. HVAC people are doing very, very well. We need to be encouraging people to go into more of those trades. Those are resources that we are lacking here. We have communities that are dying and really just going under because they don't have those jobs. And I think there's an opportunity for us to bring those in there with training and resources.
Any specific economic initiatives or bills you'd like to see passed? Or?
Well, in terms of specifics, I'd like to just see more funding coming to the rural area. I'd like for us to take advantage of the infrastructure bill that was passed in order to bring in, like I said, more broadband services, because an expansion of broadband really would make sense for us to create more jobs and especially enhance educational opportunities. Most of the kids you see around town have tablets. Most of the school districts run on tablets. So it's important, that we give students, parents, and all of our constituents an opportunity to have low-cost internet and broadband services. So that's important to me. I think it's also important to pass incentives and make sure that we're doing things, again, for training, for construction-based jobs. We have a lot of opportunities for new buildings and new development here that need to be built, right? We're doing a new parking lot downtown Longview. We need people to build that. We have a new early childhood facility coming up in Gregg County. We need people to build that. We need people to design that. Those are just opportunities that we can look at. We have a thriving oil and gas economy here. What are we doing to boost that? What are we doing to produce more opportunities around that, whether it be services to service those oil and gas companies, whether it be resources to help them build their businesses and help them grow and expand. Those are all things that we need to be looking at.
One issue that's on many people's minds this election, especially here in Texas, is immigration.
Yes.
What would you like to see done if elected to curb the amount of illegal immigration?
Well, when I think about immigration and border control, I think we need a plan. We all know that there was a bipartisan bill that was not passed through the federal government that we could have had, in recent time. And the main issue is we don't have a plan. And that's what we've been lacking. There's always a reason to say we need more control, but what are we gonna do? It's like when someone breaks into your house, you know that if somebody breaks into your house, you're gonna call the police, right? The police have been trained on what the next steps are to do. They're gonna do their investigation. They're gonna go out and they're gonna find what they need to do to make sure that you're safe. And they're gonna make you feel safe because they have that training. We don't have a plan for what happens if someone is trying to cross the border. What do you do? What happens if they do get across? What's the plan for, passage if that happens? What's the plan to get them nationalized? What's the plan to get them citizenship? We don't have a real plan, and that is why we are suffering with things, in terms of border control and immigration.
What can be done at the Texas state level to help curb illegal immigration?
Again, it all starts with a plan. And so we have to work across the board. And I think that's been the problem. There's been so much divisiveness in the state house that people have not been able to work across the board and figure out what it is that we can do, what's available for us. And that's where it all starts, is having a plan. So I feel like, once we get into session, that's the first thing. We need to be looking at what has been done and what we can do to move the needle forward, whether that is better processing, whether that's creating facilities that actually provide resources, whether that's having communication with border states, whether that's providing resources to those police officers in border states, educating them, training them on what they need to be doing and how they need to be handling these people. There's so many, different, it's multifaceted in the way we could go about it. But if we don't have a plan, if everybody's going this way and doing this and doing that and no one's coming together, we'll never have a resolution.
You talk about coming together, and of course, if elected, you may have to work with a Republican majority or a Republican supermajority.
Yeah.
How will you go about working across the aisle if elected?
I'm an East Texan. So that tells you straight up, I am for the people, and I am easy to work with. I'd love to work with people across the aisle because I know that's what's going to get things done. At the end of the day, it's not about a color. It's not about red or blue. It's about truth. And we have to get back down to the truth. If we want to make some real change in Texas, and especially for my party, if we want to turn Texas blue, we've got to turn East Texas true. And we've got to get back to what is really of value for us. And that is taking care of our children, educating them, that is creating healthcare access for our people and making sure that we have healthy Texans. And, most of all, it's maintaining our personal freedoms.
Let me ask you, you mentioned it's not about red or blue.
Yeah.
In a recent speech, you said that you are a mom, sister, cousin, but most of all,
I'm a Democrat.
You are a Democrat.
I am a Democrat.
So, it's not red or blue, but you still consider yourself that above all. Do you still believe that?
I do. I believe that is who I am fundamentally. I am a Democrat, but I am also all of those things. I'm a caretaker. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a friend.
Is Democrat more important than all those other ones?
No. Being a human being is more important than all of those things, and most of all, being a good person is what's most important to me out of everything. I wake up every day and I want to be a good person and I want to do something good for everybody. So when I say color doesn't matter, at the end of the day, there's a common denominator for everybody. We can all find some way that we are the same or that we can get along or there's something that we can all agree on. And that's what this is all about. Breaking barriers, uniting communities, and uniting Texas. That's what we're trying to do.
What is your strategy, for working across the aisle?
Yeah. So again, it's basically having a conversation. I think that's what we've lacked over time is having conversations with people and being visible. My biggest thing is people having access to me and me being in a place where they can have that access and where we can have those conversations. So no matter where that is, I'm willing to go there because my constituents are going to be there. I think that, again, there's a common denominator for everybody, and we just got to figure out what that is, and we can only do that by coming together and having those conversations.
Earlier in this conversation on the front porch, you sort of alluded to voting rights.
Yeah.
Are there any ways you'd like to see voting rights changed if elected or expanded in any way?
Well, yeah, voter suppression is real. And we've got to acknowledge that. So for me, I just...
Across the country?
Across the country, but more so here. Across the country, definitely. Here, Georgia, we've seen it more so than ever. When I first moved here and I registered to vote in Gregg County, I went and cast my vote, and I was given a letter maybe a week later that said that my voter registration wasn't valid. How is that possible? Those are things that need to be addressed. So for me, I think there needs to be clear and concise communication on what you need to be able to vote and what documents you need to be able to bring to vote and where that happens. Taking voting booths out of certain communities suppresses the vote. People don't have access to transportation to always get to voting. So those are things that I would like to see changed. I think that, again, we should have voting booths in all locations. Gladewater did not have a voting booth. That is a problem. How is it possible that our current representative and legislature are okay with all of those constituents in Gladewater being forced to come into Longview to vote? That's not fair. That's not right. So we need to create opportunities for people to be able to vote.
How should you be required to present a valid form of voter ID when you go to the polls?
I think there is a valid form, some type of ID that you can provide. I am all for whatever the law says. If the law states this is what you need, that's what we're going to do. I believe that. But I also believe that there should be, the law should be written in a way that benefits everyone, and that's just the bottom line.
Let's talk about the Second Amendment.
Yeah, let's talk
Because,
about it.
of course, there are many people in Texas who want more restrictions on gun ownership.
Yeah.
There are many who do not.
Yeah.
Where do you stand?
I believe in the Second Amendment. I have guns all over my house. I am a gun carrier. I took my first shooting sports class when I was 7 years old in 4-H. So 7 years old, had my first BB gun in my hand. I have no problem with that. My problem is I don't believe children should be shot up in schools. I don't believe that children and teachers should be afraid to go to school and go to work. So for me, it's not about you having a gun. It's about the type of gun that you have. I don't believe that anyone needs a AR-15 or whatever type of military assault weapon. Just having that. I don't believe you should have that. Your hunting weapons, your handguns, I don't have a problem with that. I believe in the Second Amendment. It's your right to be able to bear your arm, but I do not believe that children should be shot up at schools. I do not believe that people should go into grocery stores and shoot off automatic rifles and weapons and take people out. I do not believe in that. So in terms of controls, I believe there should be some controls on the types of weapons, absolutely, because much like many other Texans, you don't want to be in fear for 8 hours of the day that your baby won't come home. That's not what you want. As a husband, as a wife, as a partner, as a friend, you don't want to be concerned that when you send your person out into the world to go into a school to do what they're supposed to do every day, that they won't come home. That's not what we want.
You mentioned, some restrictions on the types of weapons people can own. Is there anything else you'd like to see done to reduce the number of shootings that take place?
I think there needs to be some real legislation on that. We need to look at that, but I can't tell you exactly what that is at the moment, because again, we need to study that. What I can tell you is that I am all for people having their weapons, but I am not for assault weapons or people being shot up in schools and grocery stores. I cannot go for that.
You've said that East Texas needs leadership that reflects our values and prioritizes our needs.
That's right.
Do you feel as though your challenger in this race, incumbent Representative Jay Dean, doesn't embody that? And if so, why or why not?
Well, I definitely say no, because we value education here. Again, we value Friday Night Lights, and for a person who's trying to tell us to just lay down and fold on this voucher issue like it's going to happen without a fight, I don't believe he embodies those values. I'm a true East Texan, and I believe in taking care of everyone around me. And for so long, he's left us out in the cold. We have a healthcare desert, in Jefferson. We have no medical care. You cannot have a baby in Marshall, and with the high rate of mortality deaths in African American women, that's dangerous. With over 20% of his constituents being over 60 years old and them not having access to health care, and him not voting to expand Medicaid just shows that he's not concerned about what's happening here in East Texas. We have to often figure out where he is, so that's another thing. I don't believe that he is reflecting our priorities, because our priorities are, again, our faith, our family, and our educating our children, and that's what's important to us. So to tell us to lay down on a voucher issue, that's not for us. To run away and not force that governor or tell the governor our needs in terms of access to health care, that's a problem for me. And looking at our economy and seeing no real economic change over the last 8 years, no real jobs, no real educational change coming in, no real influx coming in, that's a problem for me. And I don't want to say there hasn't been any industry, but there's so much more opportunity, and there's opportunity that reigns outside of Gregg County. He has a district of 3 counties, and he needs to prioritize the needs of all 3 of those counties when it comes down to emergency service up at Mims or over in Wascom, when it comes down to looking at services for outlying communities such as Smithland and Beckville and Lodi. What is he doing for those people?
Election day is fast approaching.
It is.
What would be your closing argument to voters as they go to the polls?
My closing argument, that's a good one. That's a good one. I tell them to vote on what they believe, vote from their heart, vote for what they believe is going to have the greatest effect on their families. for who they believe is going to fight for them, for who they believe is going to stand up for them, for who they believe is going to show up for them. That's what I'd like to tell them to do.